Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
That's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk.
Good evening, Uganda. Welcome to this edition of the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. It's a Monday, the 10th day of February. The year is 2024. Today we have confirmed a new governor for the Bank of Uganda, Mr. Michael Atingi Ego, who has been acting as the governor, has officially been made the governor for the Bank of Uganda, and I think his deputy is Mr. Augustus Nwagaba. They are going to be at the helm of that particular institution. It has been a couple of years since the death of the then or former governor of Bank of Uganda, that is Mr. Mutebide. After a couple of years down the road, the president has found it fit to officially hire or get a new governor for the Bank of Uganda. Still in the Bank of Uganda, a couple of individuals were arrested last week and arraigned in the anti-corruption court over the 60 billion shillings that was fraudulently lost at the Bank of Uganda, or in the Bank of Uganda accounts. Now, this particular, this particular challenge that was there brought about a few sentiments from various Ugandans over misconduct. Some people saying that it was an inside job, but as we speak today, more than 7 people, in fact 8 people, have been arrested and arraigned at the anti-corruption court to be charged with this particular case. We shall be finding out what exactly will be going on, but according to, I think, the anti-corruption police, they went to some of the venues or areas of these particular individuals, searched their houses and premises, maybe to confirm here and there on the evidence over this particular charge. So we shall be waiting to find out what exactly is the court going to be doing in case or in that particular case. Remember, some of the resources, according to the Ministry of Finance, have already been recovered. I think half of the resources that were stolen from the Bank of Uganda were recovered from the UK-based banks, but some of the banks that received this money in Asia were not able to return the money to various Ugandans. So That is what is happening in the Bank of Uganda. Then in other news, last week we also had a Kawempe North by-election in the by-election debate at the National Unity Platform headquarters that is in Makerere Kavule. Now, different individuals who are vying for the position of Kawempe North constituency on the NUP ticket actually tussled it out and had a debate where the leaders therein, or the Electoral Commission of the National Unity Platform, will be choosing who was the best candidate according to them. And still, we were celebrating Tarehe Sita. That was last week, on the 6th of February 2025. This marks 44 years since the inception of the war that brought this particular government into power. It's been 44 years since they felt that it was wrong, or what was going on in the country was a bit wrong, and they needed rectification. So the president, who was then a rebel, took to the bush and fought the Obote government and was able to overthrow the Tito Okello government sooner or later in 1986. So the UPDF, for a long time now, I think from the year 1996, they have been celebrating this particular day. So this time round, we had celebrations there, but it was not really good, according to some of the members there. The CDF was shocked by the Supreme Court judgment, and of course he said it is unacceptable. So he was shocked and unacceptable to him. And remember, the president also said that this was a wrong decision that was made by the Supreme Court over the works of the General Court Martial. So we paint a picture for Ugandans on why does the CDF and the president feel that it's wrong to have the General Court Martial professionalized according to some of the recommendations that were made by the Supreme Court judges. And of course, does this affect the implementation of the resolutions that were made by the Supreme Court? That and much more is what we're going to be talking about this evening. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. I'll introduce my panelists for the day. On my immediate right is a gentleman from the Uganda People's Congress, UPC. He is acting president there, even though there are some challenges in that particular political party and divisions, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. In the middle is a gentleman from Uganda Patriotic Movement, UPM. He is the national coordinator there, Mr. Vianney Matovu Ngoma. And on my extreme right, last but definitely not least, is a Major Retired Pollar Awich. He's a counsel, he's an ambassador, but right now he's here in the capacity of the NRM Director, External Affairs. You're most welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with you, sir. Your opening remarks, and how was your week?
My week was quite clearly destroyed by the statements and comments that we thought we had concluded the other week with delight from a courageous Supreme Court ruling on something that had taken rather too long for the justices to take positions on. We hailed them. We hailed particularly female Supreme Court justices, but generally we thought it was a fine stuff. And then, of course, the immediate thing that almost looked like a fake tweets from Mr. Muhoozi, and then later his father. Now I understand that from guys who met as part of NRM parliamentary caucus, I'm going to be fair to Mr. Museveni. One source tells me that Mr. Museveni seemed to have felt that possibly the army, meaning his son, possibly stretched a little bit too much. So that's breaking news. But in a sense, it was an unfortunate thing. I thought it was an opportune moment for Mr. Museveni to say, look, whatever the case, we may not agree, but we respect this ruling. Okay. And at that material time, even if they had thought for a future, this is a strategic thing, Comrade Rich, even if they had thought for a response of some stage, you let the thing calm down a bit. You can come back a month later, things like giving thought and things like that. But that as it may,
Yes, sir.
later in that week, we lost an extremely important citizen in this country, and one of those few that shook me, and that is Dr. Bote's personal doctor.
Pierre died?
Yes.
Hello,
So
sure.
Dr. Piote has been by the side of the president since really 1980 thereabout, and committed himself fully to Dr. Bote, and later the family. After the death of the president, continued with the mother of this nation. So that's a great loss to this nation. But of course, it's also the same week that the NRA guys were chest thumping, saying that they're celebrating 44 years. So that's a bit of a mixed week. But as I said, the more recent one, the death of Dr. Piote is very touching and very personal to me, because I worked very much with him closely and worked with him. But particularly the fact that his kind of loyalty to the commander-in-chief and loyalty to a leader is one which these days is a rarity, where you give your all. So may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Indeed. Let me come to you, Mr. Vianney. How was your week? You're most welcome, sir, once again.
My week has no problem, but what we need to correct is one, a promotion to be a new appointment.
Okay.
Dr. Ating has been the deputy, has been promoted, not running these news that has been newly appointed.
In the position as a
No,
governor.
promoted, not newly appointed. Yeah.
Okay.
The one who is newly appointed is this one, who is
Augustus
to deputize.
Nwagaba.
Yeah, Augustus Nwagaba has not been there.
Okay.
So, within the week, everybody has his own view of it. My view is to see a constitutional crisis according to the laws of the world. When military high command discusses on a ruling of any court, let it be LC1 court, in protest of it, is a constitutional crisis, it is an abrogation, and you have a problem with international human rights organizations and our membership, because they say that when you are breach an international covenant, they pull out. That's how they say it in law. So they have pulled out our membership. We are no longer members there.
Of? Members of?
The UN.
But
Because when you confront with the laws of the membership, you are no longer a member.
so they have breached the laws.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to delve into that conversation later. Retired Major, you're most welcome, sir. Your opening remarks.
First of all, my week was very good. And I can explain and illustrate. But I was just thinking about my colleague here when he says that the appointment in Bank of Uganda was not appointment but a promotion. I think the appointment or the placing of a person in Bank of Uganda is quite legalistic. It's a constitutional demand and it's taken to Parliament for vetting. So that is why it is stronger than a mere promotion. So the diction, the choice of words there in the Constitution is appointment. So you can't remove the diction, the choice of word, and replace with another.
Okay.
It is an appointment subject to Parliament approval. And I think they are arranging him to appear before Parliament. So whether it is a grammatical sense or a question of what, but I think it is more of a legalistic thing than a mere simple grammar.
Okay.
Just wanted to add that. Now, on my week, I was happy to be with our colleagues from Kenya. Part of my mandate as Director External Affairs is to ensure that NRM shares best practices with other parties, and our preference are progressive parties. And our assessment of UDA, United Democratic Alliance of Kenya, is that it's progressive because people think that Kenyan elections were tribalistic, but for the first time, this last election was on issues. That is why they kept saying, we are Asolas. Asolas was actually referring to a class of people who struggle, as opposed to a class of people who were dynastic, from the big family, from the known family. So you can see that the election had class-related element. It was issues that I'm a Kikuyu, I'm a Masai, I'm a Turukana, I'm what, which used to dominate.
Exactly.
So we think they are progressive. So they came here, 20 people, the chairperson, the secretary general, the mayor, they call it the governor of Nairobi, senator. It was a high-level delegation, so I kept them so well. I picked them through VIP. I got some cars, uniform cars, 6 with convoy. So I at least impressed on our brothers that we are one and the same, and they are hospitable, and that we are organized. I took them to Chankwanzi to see our ideological factory, because we wanted to prove to them that we don't stay in power for the sake, we make cadres. And I told them that we stayed long in power, not because of the guns that we have, but the ideology. And we said, the gun only supports a popular position of the people. Don't be misled that you can rule by helicopters or guns, no. You can only support the popular position of the people. I took them to Tare City in Chotera. They took a group photo with the president.
Okay.
Again, brought them back. The following day, I took them to State House. We had a very cordial discussion. Then the president took them to our parliamentary caucus, the one you are saying that discussed about the court ruling.
Yes.
We introduced them, and the Secretary General made a remark, and the Secretary General called the chairperson. Then the next day, we had a working group together to compare best practices at the party headquarters. Then yesterday, I saw them off at the airport. What a week. It was so quite good.
Good week, sir. Let's go back to the Bank of Uganda appointment, sir, the governor appointment. What do you think was in the mind for the president to take this long to appoint Governor Bank of Uganda, to an extent that even a lot of money was robbed from Ugandans during that time without a governor?
It's difficult to read what is on somebody's mind, just like I can't read what is in your mind. But at least we can comment about the general principles that governs a presidential appointment. Depends on the sensitivity of the matter. It depends on the available resource, human resource available, the persons who can replace. And therefore, many of these factors always make the appointing officer take long.
Okay.
And also the thinking maybe the caretaker is capable. So it really took long. It was getting a matter of concern. Even some of us were asking. And when the problem started coming, we thought maybe it is coming because there's no substantive head. So what was in his mind is to probably get the best cadres. Cadres, in this case, I'm not talking of political cadres. I'm taking of personnel to do the work. And then, therefore, it took him this time. Even the person who was in the chair had to be evaluated and reevaluated. And then the deputy, Nwagaba, I've known him for a long time. I actually knew him through his brother, who is an OB of Ntare School. He unfortunately didn't go to Ntare. So, but his brother is. Yes, so I knew him through his brother. So those are the factors that make the appointing authority take long.
Okay.
As I said, some of us felt it was really long. It should have been done before, because Bank of Uganda is the heart of the economy.
Exactly.
It's the heart which pumps the blood in the economy. It does monitoring. It controls money, prints money, does everything. It's really you can't talk of a sovereign country without a Bank of Uganda.
Okay.
So now that it took so long and we are getting concerned, at least we are glad that there's somebody.
Okay.
And we wish therefore well for this guy to be approved by Parliament. I think the diction used there is approval. Approval. To be approved by, like cabinet.
The president forwards the names, then the Parliament approves.
Yeah. So we wish him well in his approval process, and we really want the MPs to do a thorough job so that we get the best.
Thank you so much. That is Major Pollar Awich from the National Resistance Movement.
You can make me a general if you want.
I'm very concerned.
Because we have had a precedent.
Yes, sir.
We have had precedent when people are promoted in retirement. I think Honorable the Minister of State for Agriculture, Bright, is a beneficiary.
Okay.
Former MP Banda Gumiziriza. Ngoma is a beneficiary of the same. So if it is your wish and God is hearing, it's okay.
You know, for me, I can even give you a general rank, though what is my wish? I hear.
But now that it came from your mouth.
A president miscalls someone and called them Kano, and this person said, I'm a Kano from today, because the president mentioned
Suppose he had miscalled him a couple. Would he come down to a couple?
From that time, for him, he boasts, for her, she boasts that she's a Kano. The president called her a Kano. And the president is the fountain of honor. Let me come to you, Ochieno. As you were submitting, you were shaking your head. I don't know if you were affirming what he's saying or defaming it, but let me ask you, what do you think of the appointment of Mr. Ating Ego permanently now as the Governor Bank of Uganda?
I must say that Comrade Awich, for the work he does for NRA, which is a very difficult job. It's a very difficult job to defend this organization, certainly after 40 years. So Comrade Awich does a very great job for them. And so on that in alone, he qualifies to be a general in this sense for them. Now, how they do their titles, you realize I don't recognize NRA military titles. I don't know whether you've noticed that. Yeah, I don't recognize their titles.
Oh.
No. And there are people who actually like to call Museveni general, I think, and in their mind they want to emphasize the militariness of the guy. Even that I don't buy, kind of stuff. I rarely use it, you know.
Okay.
So anyway, but that said, no, Michael Atingi Edo is apparently a very modest man. I don't know him that much, but we know each other mildly. He's a very decent guy. He's a very modest, unassuming individual. And I just actually wonder why it took Museveni all these 2 years not to have appointed him.
They like 3.
Maybe he was looking for a special cadre in military terms, and since like sometimes in the military they try to create generals, but generals that can't command brigades, you know. But look, anyway, so no, I think best wishes to him. I think he's a decent Ugandan citizen to hold the bank, lead it forward. In terms of detail, I'm reasonably confident. But that said, if there's no political interferences. But that said, why did it take all this 2 years? Comrade Rich is absolutely right. The import, the significance of a central bank, to have a central bank without leadership and direction for 2 years is total madness. But since we know that there is a special bank in State House, you know,
what do you mean by a special bank?
You know, so you know, every department is there. So it's neither here nor there. You know, and you know basically what I mean. But the point is, there is no reason why we should have taken 2 years without the governor of a central bank. And actually, it's a manifestation, Comrade, which you guys were just thumping last week. 44 years without whatever. It shows the institutional break up. To have a bank And to have somebody as relatively stable and loyal, we created him for you, to Musime Mutebile, and he governed the bank over a long period of time. And you don't have structural systems in place that in the event that is a way who deputize things like that, meaning you've not built, one, death of institutions, and two, absence of sufficient trained professional people on merit to grow up like Tumusime Mutebile did. Meaning that a UPC Obote government and a future UPC government, and you realize that Governor Bank of Uganda is gone. People have risen by the time they heaped commissioners and things like that. That's what. But this is a serious point, and it should not only be with the bank. It should be with different kind of specialist areas as people grow professionally. But the bank particularly.
What do you see in the delay to appoint?
Almost it's a politically fudged thing. I think Museveni was looking for a loyalist, but at the same time, I think they were enjoying how to manage the bank from a distance. And
are you now okay and satisfied with that particular appointment?
No. With him, as I said, I am fine, absolutely fine with Mike, and I wish him well. But in between there, it has cost us 60 billion. Obote says, best way to kill a snake is cut off his head. So this is a snake running without a head. What does it bite? And if it's biting our economy. No wonder the other day, a fantastic journalist from NBS asked the finance minister how he's going to sort of the youth unemployment. And this guy, the guy fumbled and it was shocking actually. You need to watch that video. It's a news of finance. So no, those are the issues. Anyway, so Uganda's economy has been running on accidental experiment, the goodwill of our people, the fact that we are gradually relatively better off as a nation state, so many people produce most of their own foods, and Ugandans are generally hardworking. Ugandans have been used to being governed by experiment, so managed, fudged our way through in the last 2 years.
When do we give that particular achievement to the government? Because you're giving the achievement of Ugandans being able to thrive, you're giving it to the Ugandans themselves according to their merit, or you're meriting their work. When does the government...
You're risking saying that Ugandans belong to the government.
That's why I'm asking that when does the development really go to the government? When do they take the credit?
No, when the policies work. When the policies work.
Okay.
Oh yes, you come in 1962, you say, this is what we shall do in education, this is what we shall do in health, this is what we do in infrastructure, this is what we do in agriculture. This is what we'll do in emancipation of our citizens. That we want to see a projection that from a 10% ownership of the Ugandan economy by indigenous people, we want to enable people. And then you project over 3, 4, 5 years, simply say, the number of Ugandans who own part of the control of this economy has moved from 10% to 35 in a 3-year period. You use facts and figures. You say, yes, we shall expand health sector, and you do. Expand education, and you do.
These people have come with the manifesto.
Employment, and you do. No, they've come with the manifesto. What are the results? After 40 years, do you know what is happening? Distributing cash.
Okay. So let's stop there. Let me bring in Mr. Vianney as we conclude the issue of Bank of Uganda. What do you think of what you called a promotion and what Council was calling an appointment of the Governor Bank of Uganda?
Okay. Amusing. Now, within the finance of any territorial, it goes with classes. Because there is what they call classified, where me and these ones, whether you are in support of that government, where you can't touch. So there was classified loopholes of which you need to first plug, then you appoint. When you appoint, audit of the Auditor General must come in, because the law of taking over and handing over or replacing the dead or any loophole is one. It goes with the audit. You can't make an embarrassing audit. So that is, even if they don't even give us that report, they were sorting out classified loopholes, after plugging them for so long, appointment comes in to save you of other queries that may arise from either the politics, the citizens, and whatever. It was not only that we lack the material of who to replace, because the one who has replaced is not a new one, has been there. If he was weaker, not even able, shouldn't have been appointed.
Okay.
So a loophole was supposed to be plugged. One time last week, when I was crossing on my foot there at Bank of Uganda, I found a police officer chasing this border
Yes, they're always
cyclists
chasing
who
the counter-terrorism.
who want
Yes.
passengers.
Yeah.
I laughed at them openly.
Sometimes they even hold those.
I laughed at them openly.
Okay.
I said, you are here chasing these ones who are not able to cross the gate there. In the gate, PF forms are flying to Japan, going to China. Others recovered in the diaspora. Where this one resides. Now that report shows whether they don't disclose it, it is open by the saga which is in court, prosecuted to court. They were sorting out financial loopholes. They had the typical loopholes in the finances. After plugging them with court action, which will save them, because it will go with the prosecuted. Those who are not prosecuted, they have jumped the penalization. That's why they have appointed. Because particulars of the offense of those who have been prosecuted in court spells it out, if you can bring the charge sheet. Then that one shows you that that's what has caused the take long to appoint. They wanted to first sort out that one, and even sending the fire to others. You can see how it can jump to the accountant general, and we need to be served. They shouldn't be hiding this information. We need to be served with interdictions. We need to peruse the interdiction. I've seen it in the papers that they have interdicted them. We want to know the grounds, the reasons why interdicted and prosecuted.
Okay, I'm going to come back.
Can I say something just
I
before
want
you?
to come back after the break, and so that you can give us a very good, just a rebound on what they have said. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a very short commercial break. When I come back, but we'll finish his point, but also I'll get the mind of the NRM Director of Affairs, that is Major Pollar. Let's take a short commercial break. The hotline continues shortly.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, What has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
That's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be normal.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sawagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machindye, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kiza Besije every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digital. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Digital. Real issues, real talk.
Who is now Governor Bank of Uganda, and the deputy is Muwonge Augustus. They are the new confirmed leaders of the Bank of Uganda. Let me come to you, sir. There's something you wanted to submit on this particular issue of the Bank of Uganda government.
Yeah, I wanted to say that sometimes when we debate like this or when we discuss, many people are watching, including children, academic or others. So I feel like we should be holistic in giving information. Many sovereign countries have central banks, but I wanted to say not all, others don't have. Others don't have central banks. I know for a fact that the richest country in Europe doesn't have a central bank.
Monaco or Liechtenstein?
Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein uses the central bank of Switzerland, and they even use Swiss currency. But there's a way they work it out like a separate economy, and it is the richest country in Europe. To the extent that while we go to German for chair, the white Germans go to Liechtenstein for chair, including doctors. I know they're so rich that they don't have a prison in their country, but if somebody is in conflict with the law, is flown to Austria, and then is imprisoned in Austria, and
They don't have a prison.
And the state pays the relatives air ticket to go and visit their detainees in prison. So I just wanted to say that, so that because today is a day that we're discussing Bank of Uganda, so that that knowledge is within our knowledge for the viewers, that some countries choose not to have central bank, but they make arrangement with another country which will control, do the work central bank does in their country. And it has worked perfectly well with Liechtenstein. But of course, I think that works in a specific circumstance like population. Liechtenstein, the last time I saw them, there were 37,000 people. There are 37,000 people, but they're a sovereign country. The head of state is at the same level with Museveni. The head of state is at the same level with President Trump. When they sit in UN, they sit like heads of states. Yeah. So I just like to say that, and they do exactly the same. The economies are arranged, and they know there's a way they work out the controlling inflation and what. And of course, Liechtenstein is like a dream world. First of all, Swiss currency is so strong, stronger than a dollar. Even in the mainland Switzerland, the Swiss currency is so strong. So therefore, the little that is regulated and gone to Liechtenstein is also much stronger. I just wanted to add that for the sake of viewers.
Okay, thank you so much. 50 minutes past 7 p.m. You're still watching the Hotline Show, and my name is Edgar, Mathew, Karuhanga. Let's delve into another conversation of the Tarehe Sita Day. That was on the 6th of February 2025. As I told you earlier, this particular government made 44 years since they started a war that...
Correction, not government. It is the army, the formation of the army.
Okay, yeah.
The army is the government is 39, but so the army is older than the government.
Army is older, yeah, it's right. That's very true. So that was the time in 1981, 6th February 1981. That is when the NRA took to the bush to fight for what they believed was a good cause and a justifiable cause, and bringing a better government in Uganda. So 44 years down the road, how much worth is the life or the lives of the various Ugandans that really died for the cause of a better Uganda? Do their sacrifices really count and really matter? And we also talk about the politics in the army. How is it that the CDF can, first of all, unaccept or says it's unacceptable what the Supreme Court ruled? So is our army acting as an army? Is it that professional in nature? Is it a militia, or is it governed or sanctioned by the parliament and the laws that govern the land? So how is it that in case the Supreme Court makes a verdict, the CDF can openly say this is unacceptable? How does that really play out in Uganda? And of course, for betterment of the UPDF itself. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Matovu. You were part of that particular outfit, or the NRA then, that brought this government into power, and you were a fighter then. Are you happy when you look at where the NRA, which is now the UPDF, is today?
They differ much. NRA and UPDF, they differ. NRA was a revolution. This UPDF is from the debate of the parliament, which comes with a book called an act of the parliament, which directs them how to behave. So they differ, they are not the same. So that formation and the other formation of NRA, nobody, however, by then they called them commander, because they had no territorial claim called a country, could address the press on questions of the population. Because when you disagree with the court process, you have disagreed with the popular democracy. Popular democracy which touches the population themselves. And yourself, according to the act, you are subordinate to them. You have to protect them. You are peoples.
Yes.
And when you go to this and say you can't accept, it creates a constitutional crisis according to the law. We shall not discuss who has said so, but what does the law say? And what is the content and form of the viewed picture? And within the Tarehe Sita, it was not even concerning the supreme ruling. The supreme ruling was not part of it. This was to reveal how the struggle started by the attack of Kabamba. And then when you involve it with the conflicts, let us say it in the real context, the conflicts between the civilians, the courts, of which kind, with this one, which concerns the liberation, it doesn't even match with it. The other one was to revere and inform Ugandans, and you allow Ugandans to inform you. You believe, they debrief you to know, are you still on course? But within Uganda, we do it in a colonial frame. The one who is organizing is the one who speaks. The outsiders, they don't speak to you. So therefore you will go by your speech, which you have prepared, and you don't know what is the view of the onlookers.
Which
Yes.
no longer matters.
Who spoke? The Minister of Defense and other dignitaries. That's how you call them. And they didn't allow the press. The press could assist, because you can't allow anybody to speak on the function. They could task a press within that area to interview people, so that the people can come out and say, our agreement, because we made an agreement with them, or except who were looking for jobs, for wealth, they are the ones who had no agreement with the people. Because those who were with the agreement with the people were not to gain anything, only to liberate people. That's how the context was. Except for those who were saying, as soon as we reach Kampala, I will be a minister. As soon as we reach Kampala, I will drive. As soon as we reach Kampala, I will be in the skies.
So are you saying that the UPDF is no longer is alien to the people of the country? There is no longer a fusion between them?
UPDF, it is influenced by the laws from Parliament. Now,
And I thought that is what professionalized it from being the NRA it was. Then that's why it became UPDF, so that it's subject to you and me, to parliamentarians, to look out for the work it does. That's being professional.
The law from Parliament doesn't professionalize. Those parliamentarians, what they want UPDF to do. Let me give you an example. If they can decide now, bring a kind of bill, either private or government bill, and say that we want an army by this act to detain and whip people. They are to go by the law now. But the NRA, it was not like that. Could say, in order our objectives, in order to help people this problem, they were sorting out a problem. These ones are according to, and what is causing the conflict now, it is not by their wish or their make. It is by the act of Parliament making a section within it that make courts do this, get this. They have reached a level of looking for money. Because by the act of Parliament, you have to go to Parliament to table.
So that money is approved.
That I want so much money. If you can ask Awich by the time he had not changed by today, could ask Awich that what is the problem, even if he's going to die of hunger, could say, I'm okay. Are you ready to save Ugandans? Yes. But now these ones, they tell you that without buying Land Cruisers, without paying high salaries, and you ask this one, how long has he stayed not knowing what money means? But
is that a bad thing?
Even joining, because of the act, which has influenced that a military officer or an officer and men must be paid like this, before seeking a recommendation to join, must first ask, they pay how much? They are even conflicting for ranks, which is not of this one.
The
This
NRA.
one, without rank, with rank, no problem. But
It's been 44 years.
those are the 44.
It's been 44 years.
Those are the
Did you
44.
expect that to happen? That it will reach a point where the army will need to be paid? Where it needs, that's also part of professionalism, that I'm saying.
So-
is that a bad thing?
Can I interject very quickly? As a matter of interest, actually, because I actually find this very interesting, because you'll be surprised that the witch is going to be very happy that for the first time I'm actually moving towards qualifying NRA. Part of the argument being made here is that the original object of the NRA was selfless fighting to restore peace, stability, democracy, human rights, rule of law, selfless. And he's suggesting that selflessness has been lost amongst the many points he's making. I found that very interesting. But does not mean that did not mean that we are going to go into government and we're never going to be paid. No, I think it's emphasizing the priority, which I actually genuinely find interesting.
No, but my question.
But payments of today.
Why is the problem from Parliament overseeing how the UPDF does its work?
The problem is one, when you don't keep the economy and the Uganda shilling without its weight, you cause trouble. That's why we have a problem of remuneration being less. And you find somebody complaining of a budget being minimal because they don't know that the value is the one that is influencing it. You go to countries which has controlled their money. They are not looking for billions and trillions. Even 100 shillings are enough. What you do, control the inflation, that of the salary, and remuneration will sort itself. Even if you pay him 1 shilling, will be enough. But when you increase the salary, it will spiral the inflation. When it's then it will bring debt. Instead of getting 1 shilling debt, you will get trillion shillings of debts to cover. That's the problem they are doing there in the Parliament. For them, they don't control the flow of the Uganda money.
Parliament and Treasury, surely.
They are about how many bags to carry. Not knowing it will be a problem. Now, you can imagine, in the neighboring countries, someone can drive 10,000 shillings for a month. For you, at the pump, to make a full tank, you need millions. Because the liter is in 4,000, 5,000 there.
But one would say it's a general issue because it's not only the UPDF that is getting lump sum. If we're talking about that, then even the parliamentarians, they get more money, a lot of money. So it's a general issue of government departments. They have to take a lot of money.
They don't get a lot of money because when money has no value, however they give you what is full of this room, it can't be much money.
Yeah, but you cannot.
You buy a small plot, it gets.
I'm trying to say that
you run back.
This particular money problem is not brought by UPDF alone. I think it's more of a national issue as a people.
It was brought by a word. They have the word there, appropriation. When you are appropriating, it is a hunter wisdom. Hunters, after killing an animal, everybody takes a throat. But with these ones, they use a big technical word. When you are not interested in small words like us, you can't understand it. When they talk of appropriation, you don't understand it.
Would you have
but that appropriation is to get 5 trillion budgeted, then you start cutting. This one goes with this. This is what has brought the budget committee dealing with departments and ministries, that we are giving you this. Out of this,
do you suggest we would have stayed under martial law last week?
No, The Masoro was
So
not
how would you suggest the country would have developed? Or what, how would
Was
you
there martial law?
Masoro was not
Was there ever martial law?
let me come to you. You seem to be
Either
supporting
they
what
object-
you are saying.
No, he's making extremely important economic and political point, but also there's an ideological contradiction for which, as I said, and that's why I was saying Comrade Rich can be consoled, that you see for us in UPC we're very objective, that we recognize as a progressive left political party, because it's important, you know, the origin of FRONASA and the UPM as a political party. And as I said, and it's a conversation I think the three of us can continue having with you and with our viewers in future, that it's important to recognize that you will have a political party, progressive left, Uganda People's Congress, their beliefs, our beliefs are these, and when it comes to issues of inflation, it comes to issues of taxation, comes to issues of investments in public services, this is our positioning. NRA guys can make that argument. They, most of the guys from FRONASA actually, they were predominantly guys from the left of politics. And their arguments was this people-driven, sort of mini revolutionary, and then we're saying, you know, service beyond self, and more, perhaps going to almost the other extreme of public service. You know, people who left UPC and joined UPM, FRONASA. Some of them were arguing that we were not left-wing enough. Now, he's telling you that if you fast forward to come to 1986, where of course we'll talk about martial law, but it's basically about propaganda from NRM. You know, these guys did not inherit a collapsed economy. The collapsed economy that we inherited was in 1979 after Idi Amin. You know, April 1979, we had a collapsed economy. But really by 1985, what had happened, the 6 months of NRA and UNLA fighting, we had militia systems.
6 years.
And six months, between July 1985 to January. So that was fair enough. There was a mess. So when NRA came to take over, clearly there had been 6 months of a mess of different kind of militias, which I always argue that it had nothing to do with the UPC. But even then, systems had no substantial collapse, and there's a discussion including about what they found in the central bank. But the important point is trying to tell you that if you look at how much foreign debt we inherited, if you look at from that start between 1986 January to 1987, for instance, the currency conversion that is not talked about. But this is very important. There was a currency conversion that I've told you here before, I think on this program, that in 1987, 1,000 shillings was converted to 10,000, becomes 10. If you had 1,000 shillings, you go for the exchange. They take away two zeros. Then you remain with 100. And then they take away 30%. So you remain with 70 shillings. You know, that is what we started with in 1987. Now, when you look at what really we were living on, what 100 shillings bought before the currency conversion, you know, today you will not buy it for 10,000 shillings. So really the inflationary tendency and whatever has happened, the cost of living, you know, the price of money, which is basically emphasizing what it would buy for you, has never really been fairly and objectively discussed. And Comrade Richard, this is a conversation we need to be to have for the future of our children, including to help us, particularly young economists, you know, and the young people, policy guys in future, how we're able to plan for economies in terms of investments. Now, where he was talking about NRA, again, as I understand it, if this was the original military organization that was saying this is the direction where we're going to go, today NRA High Command is at the helm. What is the regime, meaning the political organization, managing over?
He's still,
and that is still
I want to bring his submission to what he says, that one of the challenges is that even the UPDF has to first go to the parliament to approve. And doesn't this bring about respect to say that an army has now to beg you?
I do not think.
Just a minute, let me finish. It has to beg you so that you can accept it to do its job. Many times they have tested from the parliament itself, and they still come back. The judiciary has made a court ruling, and you have seen that the General Court Martial did not sit. I was talking to General Klaija, and he's saying, these people, we've accepted what they're saying.
The UPDF going to parliament, it is unlawful. Let me give you what can open your eyes. When they are to have an understanding with another ministry. No UPDF can sign it. It is the PS.
Defense.
Ministry of Defense.
Yeah, that's
so
what
the
I'm
Ministry
saying.
of Defense alone can go there.
That's what I'm saying.
Than creating this one to go there, which creates a demand of targeting, reaching at the level of personality.
Militarized.
Saying we want so and so. If it was Ministry of Defense going there without the military personnel, that of we want the army commander here shouldn't have arisen. There are some of the issues you bring to cause problems and trouble.
Okay, I want you
what if they are not disciplined and they bitterly
no, but what you're saying,
with
what
them
I'm trying to show you is that all that happening is a sign enough to show that these people are now professional enough.
Can
that
you
even with guns, they're subordinate to the civilian
I
authority.
know
That's what I'm trying to
the
say.
Ministry of Defense is there.
The
law is there. For them, even if you want money, it is the PS of Ministry of Defense.
Ochieno.
According to the law or act or constitution, who is not a military person.
So I wonder how many times have you seen teachers going in to negotiate? How many times have you seen doctors and nurses going to negotiate? That's part what is wrong. How many times have you seen farmers from Nagongara? These ones who've been forgotten for the last 40 years, you know. So that's basically the point he's trying to make. Not necessarily that the Ministry of Defense, or meaning the army, should not. So in part I get his point. And as I said, this thing has been personalized and localized. But in a way, anyway, I'm just saying that, look, you know, if you look at what these guys were saying, which is another important point, was I would have seen, Comrade Awich, for your PR guys, to have emphasized on, look, 44 years ago, this is what we fought for. And I know it was baseless anyway, but at least try to say, this is what we fought for, this is what we fought, what we thought needed to be corrected. You know, we took over government in 1986. This is where we started, this is where we are. See, 39 years later, this is what we've done. You know, and part of his concern is that to reach a stage in which now you find the army commander, who is the son of the ruler, you know, saying that, no, you guys, you know, and I've got the statement down there, which I'm sure we're going to be reading much later, you know. And you see the army commander being directly involved in politics and actually threatening an arm of government, where you don't expect that on that occasion, even if it was actually not necessarily terrorist, you know, he should really not be commenting on matters of politics. You know, he really shouldn't have been doing so.
Those are his musings.
Musings on whatever it is, you know, in his uniform, and he's standing, and he's an army commander, and say, okay, I reduce my rank as army commander, now I'm presidential advisor, daddy, hear me. No, that's completely out of order.
Aren't we just trying to be blind to the achievements that have been registered by the
like which one? Can I remove my glasses? Which one?
A strong army that is now expanded. An army that has introduced females or women in that UPDF. An army that is constructing building roads for Ugandans. An army that is outside this country.
For the women.
You said, as we speak today, that army is restoring peace in this particular region. That army is in Equatorial Guinea. It has been entrusted. Aren't we just being blind?
No. Of everything that you said, and I know what my comrade is going to say, one thing that you can give credit, and which will be happy, you know, the level of women involvement in the army, yeah, that you can give them credit. But I also want to tell you that actually, as of 1985, you know, there was to be a provision post-elections, and I've said it before, and you guys may know about it, that the opening up of the military, you know, in terms of recruitment of women had been, but it did not, for UPC's perspective, we didn't have the opportunity to be able to do so. But it was there. Give them credit. Everything else that you said, which roads? Kampala potholes? Which roads? Roads in Congo? Roads to go and loot? You know? Roads to make us pay hundreds of millions of dollars? And we pay hundreds of millions of dollars, and not one single ordinary thief in Congo has been tried in court here? So what really do you want to give this to these guys? Granted, in terms of national defense, the role of the army is to defend our territorial integrity. Now, since these guys came, I don't know which country sought to invade Uganda.
Reggie said they fought 29 rebellions in 20 years.
Of course, he can say they fought 39 because they've been around for 39 years.
But they fought 29 rebellions.
So I don't know how you can credit that. How many did UPC fight in 4 years? How many did UPC fight in 4 years? And let me tell you something. This army, what it did in northern Uganda, no other army since independence has done it. The criminal acts of this army, it has never done it. This army is on record as a rebel group in Luweero. What it did. So I didn't want to go there. So no.
But legal notice number 1, what does it say?
I don't know.
That government became legitimate after taking power.
And we are not disputing that. We simply say the record has been shambolic, and we wonder why they went for legal notice number 1. That's all we can say.
Okay, let me first bring in Awich. Major, on the 44 years, what is you are part of this particular group, fought and also has served the UPDF. What do you think about the 44 years in power, as you also respond to some of the sentiments that your colleagues have tonight?
And it deserves to be more than a major.
The 44 years of the army.
Yes, sir.
And we had talked about this. The 44 years has seen a professional army grow. Remember, we are talking of the first bullet, the form of this army. To form this army had 27 guns. And now you can imagine how many guns are there, and how many bombs, and how many helicopters, and how many planes.
Yes.
So the first army, this NRA, after Kabamba, split into 3 sections. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. Section is 11 people. 11 people. So it formed into 3 sections and started operating. That means it was basically a platoon. So 44 years has seen what it is now.
Yeah, I think you have a couple of battalions.
And I want to say that about what he was saying, it is true. For a long time, even in Kampala, we didn't have salary. I was in Entebbe. As a matter of fact, even before, because I was young, salary surprised us. And we even asked what it was for. Because the entire 86, 87, there was no salary. I think we got salary around 88. Around 88 is when we got salary.
Yes, sir.
That is when the regular ranks came. Because at the beginning there were no regular ranks. The ranks were stopping at sergeant. And then the other upper ranks were commander so and so, commander so and so. We would differentiate senior officer like that. So it is true, the aspect of sacrifice was there. I remember we used even to hate Coca-Cola. We used to call it ubebero. Ubebero, I think, is a Swahili word meaning imperialism. Imperialistic tendency. Coca-Cola, we detested it. We detested Coca-Cola, we call it mambo ya ubebero.
Now.
So there was really sacrifice with eating food.
What happened?
Now, that I wanted to give that, I will answer that. Now, much has been talked about. What we are talking about is actually what transpired in the 44 celebration. What transpired, especially about the comment about the court ruling.
No, I asked you a question about the 44 years. I'm going to come to a comment on the court ruling itself.
I thought I've finished the 44 years.
Okay.
That the 44 years saw the development of 27 guns, the formation of 3 sections, and it has led to the big army, which is now having tanks and personnel and all that.
Is it bad for this particular army to account to, or to be under the jurisdiction of the parliament or Uganda's
civilian authority?
Authority, sorry, yes. How, what is that?
Wow, your question in coming in bits and pieces. The way I'd package it, I thought it would flow. Anyway, let me answer it. If it is coming in bits and pieces, because me, I wanted to address the matter of the court ruling, which would answer you about civilian authority. But let me deal with civilian authority. The Constitution provides that the army shall be under civilian authority. What it means here is that the army should do its military role, and the civilian authority here is implied to mean when Article 1 is exercised, which says power belongs to the people. The people who are elected are the ones in political authority. So they give command to the military. Now, that is what it means. And that is why even in practical sense in the Ministry of Defense, in the hierarchy, even the PS is above CDF,
exactly.
and the Minister of Defense, the State Minister and all those.
Yes.
They are above CDF.
CDF, exactly.
That is their hierarchy. So that is what in practical sense means the authority of the people. Why? Because the minister is appointed by the president, who is a civilian elected under Article 1. So the minister is exercising the power of the appointing authority, which is the president. The president has come there because of the power of the people. So that is it. Now, the other way of exercising civilian authority is Parliament has power to oversee executive. Now, part of how it oversees executive is to approve their policy statements and to approve their budget.
Exactly.
All ministries. Now, the difference, I wonder why my Congress brother doesn't seem to see this clearly, is that the Ministry of Defense, the branch that is under Ministry of Defense, is the military. They are the ones who do the spending. And therefore, when they come to be scrutinized, that is why they are called. It's unlike a teacher that I was saying, that a teacher is in Nakapiripirit, a teacher is where. But the people like the Ministry of Defense, in the Ministry of Education, they do appear. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Just like if you had a branch or a commission in the Ministry of Agriculture, they would appear because they are the ones who do the actual spending.
Exactly.
And they're the ones who do the actual budgeting. They do the budget, they do the spending.
Yes, sir.
And therefore, and by the way, it is a right of Parliament to call it. You could even choose to call a battalion commander. Remember, Parliament has power of High Court. So it is at their discretion, and they set their rules of procedures. But I think the exercise of scrutinize, they call it scrutinizing the ministry. To scrutinize a ministry like Ministry of Agriculture, you'd call those who do estimates of budget and those who do the spending of the money. In this case, defense, they're saying you buy tanks, you buy helicopter, you buy this, you buy this. The only thing with the Ministry of Defense is that Parliament can choose to have what they call, the other secretary committee is called, what is called the classified spending. And the classified spending is not classified as such. Still, some selected members of Parliament are selected to go and see it.
They can actually check.
Under some perceived oath of secrecy, but it is scrutinized.
For them, they actually see
they see
items,
whether
but
you
not
bought
allowed to
helicopters,
speak.
whether you bought poison, whether you bought what, whether you bought poison, whatever it is, only that this select committee are supposed to maintain secrecy for the sake of the security of the nation. So even classified expenditure is not classified per se.
Yes.
A select group of members of Parliament are supposed to go and see it because Parliament has the ultimate authority over every coin that you spend.
Okay.
So that is what it is,
Thank you
and
so much.
in a practical sense. So
Let's go to the comments.
Now, go to what?
The comments of General Kainerugaba.
The comment of the CDF
says you are shocked.
Yeah.
Is unacceptable.
First of all, everybody has a right to comment about a ruling of court. And you know very well that there is the rule of no comment on a matter before court.
Sub judice.
Sub judice. The sub judice principle says don't discuss because the matter is being adjudicated. But once a ruling is passed, yes, everybody is free to disagree. Okay? But you should respect it. There's a difference between disagreeing and respecting. So that is the principle, and that is why a decided case is taught at universities, because it is already a case passed. So it is not that we don't discuss. You can tear it into pieces, but you respect it. If you don't want to respect it, if you have provision for appeal, you appeal. Okay? You have to respect it. If you don't have, if not, you disagree. You can even say the judges were stupid, but you will respect it. Because the other alternative of not respecting is contemptuous. The other alternative of not respecting is contemptuous. So
when you say unacceptable,
so we are free to discuss.
As the CDF.
Now I think what the CDF is my thinking. What the CDF meant actually is that it doesn't agree with it. If I were him, I would withdraw the word not accept, but say I don't agree. Because if you don't agree, it's your right. It's your opinion not to agree with a court ruling. It's absolutely right. And this now brings me into the science of law. The science of law is called jurisprudence. When Parliament makes an act of Parliament, for example, you make an act saying, if somebody is found with a property which is a sole possession of the army called military stores, it should be prosecuted in court-martial. Fine. And that is the Parliament of Uganda. 529 people, for example. In their wisdom, they said, and they thought it is okay. That is the law. That is the science of law to progress. Now, the Constitutional Court comes and says, no, that section that you said, anybody found with military stores, whether it's civilian or not, should be prosecuted. The Constitutional Court says it is wrong. As I say, the only way to say that, you can disagree with it, but you still have to respect it. The only way is to appeal against it in the Supreme Court. Now, when you appeal in the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court rules still the same thing, you can still disagree with it, but you should respect it. Now, the only thing you do, because the executive is the one which proposes law, except for private members' law, because the executive is the one in the steering wheel, it is the executive. And no, remember that laws are passed to cure a mischief. If in the opinion of the executive, they feel that this mischief has to be cured, then what they do is to go back to the drawing table and see how do we cure this mischief. And that is what leads to the executive bringing another law. So, and that is jurisprudence, the development of law. I repeat in summary, Parliament passes, Constitutional Court rules, or court rules, executive has to get a cure. So that if you still bring a wrong cure, it will be ruled by Constitutional Court. In other words, the drafting and the way to cure should be better. Now, if it becomes good, then the law has developed. So, if I were the CDF, I would have said, I know the ruling, but I don't agree with it. Because he qualified it by saying it will bring challenges in command and control. Because he's saying, if you get this to the army, it would control. I think in this way, for example, command and control means what? Like you have the case in Karamoja where thousands of civilians had guns. Remember in Karamoja, the people who had guns were nearly about 2 divisions. 2 divisions of guns in civilian hands. You can illustrate like this. If you were in the border areas like some of us from there, the Karamojong raid, if say Karamoja was in Jinja, do you know that they would move from Jinja up to Lokaya to raid? And in this single raid, they come like a brigade with guns. They're civilians. So, and that is why I think in the opinion of CDF is saying if guns get out and you don't have legal control by prosecution, command and control becomes difficult. So, I would rather CDF, if I were CDF, to say the ruling, I don't disagree. You're free not to disagree.
Yeah,
but then, if you don't accept it, you don't accept it by political I said all non-acceptance are only two ways. Either you appeal, if you still have room for appeal, Supreme Court you have none, or the executive goes back on the drawing board to address the mischief, in which case it will come with another legislation. And that is jurisprudence, the development of the law.
But the choice of words that are always used by this gentleman are bringing such issues. Remember when he said we shall hang Besigye? You've heard of when he called M23 the brothers. What do you think about this particular? Don't these words amount to someone who at least needs disciplinary action?
Well, about the words, yes, but I still thought
even called parliamentarians clowns.
I still thought I have not developed this. For example, for the Congress, even if you were to make a law about UPDF, and by the way, so many things, UPDF was not a birth of parliament, as you seem to have said. UPDF was a birth of the Constituent Assembly.
Exactly.
You remember Brigadier Mayombo is the one who even proposed the insertion of UPDF in CA. Now what happens is, in a constitution is the mother of laws. It makes the general law, then it gives parliament to make the detail. Take for example, Article 219 provides for there shall be a National Security Council, full stop. Then the Constitution will say Parliament shall make laws to govern. The same thing, UPDF, there shall be a national army called Uganda People's Defense Force. Parliament shall make laws to govern.
And that's where we bring in.
So that is when Parliament comes in.
Yes.
So Parliament making the laws to govern the army is a command by the Constitution.
Yeah, that one we have.
It's a command by the. Yes. So UPDF was a birth of the Constitution,
exactly.
And the law governing it is from Parliament, and therefore, now I was saying the Congress made this. I was saying even in the event of a law, like in agriculture, if you are passing a law about agriculture, you will consult the farmers, the sellers of farm implements. You consult all stakeholders. So there is no way you can make a law about UPDF without actually calling them to say, what is your view? This is it can be even the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary or a committee controlling defense.
Okay.
But they have to appear. So in other words, I want to still insist that for those who think the army should not appear in Parliament, I think it is an error.
Why is your UPDF taking part in political statements or politics? When you hear the CDF say that the parliamentarians are clowns, he cannot stand in front of them. When he says the M23 are his brothers, when you hear Kano Magezi also saying we shall not accept any resolution, Besigye will be hanged. What does that mean when you hear people who are serving in the UPDF making such statements?
No, those statements came from individuals, as you said, but I haven't comprehended them. Some of them I've heard as rumors, and therefore I don't think I'm competent to comment about it.
Haven't you heard of Mr. Muhoozi?
I have heard, I mean, I've heard and seen from some other places. So, but I'm saying the way it is put and the context in which it was said, it makes me incompetent to discuss it now.
Okay, thank you so much. I wonder when anybody will be able to answer those questions, because every time you ask that
no, I can bring the answer.
That is how competent. That's how competent.
Even with the spokesperson.
That is how competent and confident Mr. Muhoozi does it. Daddy, this is my position. He competently does it so much that it makes it incompetent for anybody
to say the spokesperson of the UPDF always has the same statement like that one. For him says they are his personal musings, but you comment on that.
It's actually shameful. It's an impeachable thing at the top for the president, and it would be a sackable offense. But how do you sack your son who is there at your, it insults, and in a way it breaks, for those of us who are opposed to this thing, the NRA loses opportunity, to buy a scintilla of any respect would otherwise have for this institution and organization, and for average Ugandans to buy into the possibilities, including as has been attempted by our FRONASA friend to try and make the case for when FRONASA was starting, something that would have led to the NRA guys. No, it's sad. Comrade Awich, you're in a difficult position.
No,
but
I'm not.
This guy was extraordinary, the way he talked about these things. And because of time, I'll not go into it, but I think the Karamoja argument you make, all that NRA needed to do was, if it is as you suggest, are we suggesting that our police officers have got the incapacity to deal with this one? But number two, you guys have always argued, no, I'm making the point for you, you guys have always argued that, the police asks the army when they can't handle. The army could easily have gone down there, check these guys, pick them, hand them to police authorities, and they go through the civilian process. Go get them, give them to the police, hand them to civilian authority. That's all you needed to do. We would not have been complaining that why were soldiers dealing Karamojongs. Soldiers whip people, including fellow members of parliament. We're used to that kind of stuff. So that's what needed to have been done. No, I've said before that it was actually an insult to the people of Karamoja, particularly when the CDF's dad claimed that these Karamojong kids should clap for them because they're now guests of the state, meaning they're enjoying, they're enjoying cups of tea instead of walking the streets of Kampala by street lights begging, so they're enjoying, they're enjoying a bit of milk from Rakitura farm.
You're being sarcastic.
But honestly, that's how it feels. Because you know what?
No, but can I say something about this? I'm the one who raised Karamoja. You see,
no, it was pushed there. It is also part of the statement.
You see, if we are not aware or conversant about the Karamoja question, you rather stay and hear from those who know. It's not as simplistic as you're saying, especially, for example, if you make it simplistic by saying you call police. Police on a Karamoja question? I have said Karamoja moves in a formation of a division. It's a single Karamoja raid. Let me first start from intra-Karamoja. Intra-Karamoja means among Karamojong themselves. You have communities like Mathew, Bokora, Che, Pian. These are communities. I once went with the minister Omonyo Jok, the late, may his soul rest in peace. Well, he was an OB of the great school,
You can.
I went with Omonyo Jok. I went with Omonyo Jok when he was minister for Northern Uganda Reconstruction. We went to Karamoja and found in a small place like 4 football pitches, the 2 communities had clashed. I think Bokora and Mathew. In a small group like 4 football pitches, over 600 dead bodies. They clashed, killed themselves. And then we started hearing voices that government had given them guns to finish themselves. But government is saying bring back the guns. You can imagine intra-Karamoja. Now, inter-Karamoja now, meaning Karamoja Teso, Karamoja Choli, Karamoja Lao, Karamoja Bugisu, Sebei and the rest. It's terrible. They would so how would you, first of all, I was in the first NRA which clashed, 9th Battalion under Katabara, which clashed with NRA Karamoja, in a place called Kalao, in Agago. Because by then, NRA had taken over power. The advanced system we used then was on foot. with a machine detecting mines. You know, NRA had come through a background of mines. So we would advance by a physical person checking landmine. So it took a long time to reach the north. Meanwhile, Karamojong had swept up to Gulu. So when they came to this place with their cows, they didn't know NRA had arrived. We clashed with them, we beat them, and we got the cows recovered. The second NRA battalion, which had gone through Moroto, under Okecho, 23rd Battalion, and 31st under Badro, the two commanders are dead. The Karamojong nearly finished them. NRA. So now, for you to say I want police, no, you are clashing with over 1,000 fighters.
Just respond on that.
So over 1,000 fighters.
No.
So now, so you can't simply say it's police. Over 1,000 fighters.
Comrade Awich is a lawyer, and by the way, I've got 11 years of experience of attending high-level courts. You know, at least 3 times a week, except it is not in Kampala. Look, Comrade Awich, all we are talking about civilian authorities and formalities. We are simply saying, if the police cannot, I was being very structured. You know, for us, we believe in the rule of law. If the police are unable to, those are situations where they call in the army. So if you call in the army, the expectations for the Karamojong youth, let the army go, deal, get these boys, hand them over to police. Of course, commonsensically, they will be unarmed. Police goes through the processes, including a civilian court. Okay. That's the emphasis we are trying to make.
No, but the president said even magistrates feared to go there. Magistrates were not there.
That's very interesting. Museveni said magistrates and judges that they don't have capacity. It's an indictment of 39 years of failure to invest in the judicial system. And nobody has responded to Mr. Museveni on this. Let me just make this quick point. Nobody has responded to Museveni to this. You know,
No.
They should be investing in the police and the judicial systems and capacity.
Okay, let me just listen to Matovu lastly on that issue.
This
because
is
something you want
the
to say.
procedure at stake. It is medieval. It started with the colonialists when the governors was here. We are here. Amin was in the King's African Rifle.
Yes.
Was deployed in Karamoja.
Yes.
To do the same. It failed. Then when
This one has succeeded. This one has succeeded.
the independent government runs in, the same to Karamoja. This one, when it came, the same to Karamoja. So what is important of all is to change the minds of the people. What can redress this is one, to make sure you sensitize the Karamojong to hate rustling, like the Christians came, sensitized us to hate socialism and herbalism. We changed it to the National Drug Authority. That's what can sort it out. You can sort it out now as you predict success. When they get a backing from anywhere, they will resume. Even Amin had succeeded. During the fight, they came back, they promised them that you go and pick your cows from Ankole.
Okay.
When they failed to pick cows, when they were going back, they raided arms, knowing that they will use them to cross to Kenya. They went with them.
And just a quick complimentary one, if you don't mind. Actually, that's very important, Karamoja, because Karamoja is in our interest. Part of the arguments I've always made is that actually we should also invest hugely in education in Karamoja. Because the more you invest in education, the more people will move away from, you can call it primitive, use Museveni's word, primitive cattle keeping ways to possibly going to do medicine, law, and
is that where the notion that you wait for Karamoja to develop?
And then do you know what? And do you know what he did? And when Obote said that, do you know what he did? By 1970, as investment in education, Karamoja, PLE results of 1970, Karamoja was the second best after Bukit.
Thank you.
In PLE results performance at the top.
In just a few minutes, there's something that we are not pointing to, but there is this SFC, Special Forces Command, which some people believe is an army in an army.
Of course it is, yes.
Why do you say it's an
That is army. But anyway, what is the question?
My question is, what do you think about this phenomenon where some people believe that there is an army or an arm of the army that is more special than the others, and you have...
And many guys in the army feel very resentful about it.
What do you think about this?
You know, because it started, you know, Special Brigade was supposed to have been merely a unit. Under Milton Obote, it was a brigade, presidential, you know, a unit, a presidential escort unit, which basically provides security for the president, the vice president, and the key diplomatic staff, you know. This one expanded, became a brigade, and now it's a full army with huge privileges, with arms and everything else, and it's a privilege to go and serve in it, and it's basically that is army. And you know, that's how Muhoozi rose, and they put many other people, put all the money. I'm told that if you want to live a good life in the army, you know, join that one. So it's basically a group of people who know who's who, and I'm told to go in down there, you need to be more than an average Ochieno in order to join that. So it's basically...
What do you mean more than an average Ochieno?
No, because you need to know who's who. I don't want to make it so crooked. But the truth is that it's so and so's son's army, so and so's who joins the unit, basically. So so big, fully equipped. I don't know where the commander, which will tell us the size of it. As I said, presidential escort unit, you know, should be a unit, and it was a unit under Milton Obote. In fact, by then under Milton Obote, you know, actually the head was Captain Odongo Duka, then went to become Major. So the highest level person was the Lieutenant Colonel. Now you know the thing is controlled by a general. But can we say that
since they are special in nature, they would need special...
No, actually, no, they get specialist... No, actually, right, they get specialist training.
Yeah.
They get specialist
One
training.
would say so, it's understandable.
And you could talk about relative privilege in terms of maybe they get opportunity maybe to travel with the president abroad, so they will get allowances.
No, because they are special in nature.
But special, it's a job, just like Commander Awich said, you know, just because you came and...
No, why they can't be the same with ordinary...
Yeah, if you came to Kampala's Crescent House, then throw a bomb at Minister of Internal Affairs, Luza Kirunda, do you go back to Luwero and then demand to own a whole hospital for yourself?
Let me ask Mr. Matovu that particular question. Mr. Matovu, what do you think about this notion that there is an army in an army?
That one is being brought by the law.
But it's not sanctioned by Parliament, the SFC. At least the Air Force is sanctioned by Parliament and the Land Force. But the Special Forces...
It doesn't require the Parliament. After, let me give you a simple example. When you register a CBU, you make bylaws. Within command, that word called within the command,
yes, sir.
You have your own internal arrangement, which influences so. And making it wider is only by one word, suspicion. When you suspect anything, you have to beef. That is the terminology they are using. You beef up to the level it turns at the level of the barracks. That's what causes so. So suspicion is a bad word within community business. When you live with suspicion that this one may be like
according
this.
to what are the facts, do you think that suspicion is based from somewhere?
It shouldn't be based from somewhere, because these are 44 years and 39.
Can you imagine?
Within it, we should have sorted out what causes conflicts.
Yes.
What causes conflicts and war, they are not, it is not a big thing. Is only distribution, whichever you have here, the distribution of wealth, the distribution of benefits, that's what causes some suspicion. When you distribute by balance,
prejudices,
you can walk on foot without any escort and no harm. But when there is a vacuum somewhere, because you have to sense the vacuum within these councils of the any organization, when you are talking with them, you see the level of gravity.
Is that why we have many people with escorts these days? Because before Endere came to power, MPs did not have that, ministers did not have escorts. They only had a driver, a police escort. Even Prime Minister, driver, a police escort. Speaker, driver, a police escort.
That one is the reason, the core reason. Because when an MP carries 500 million, these thieves will confront.
These thieves?
I mean, I'm not meaning this.
I accept to be the thief.
He enjoyed it. He enjoyed that.
The thieves will confront him. So we'll need what? Security will demand by themselves. So the distribution, when it is not balancing, as a means of controlling others and suppressing them.
But should it be a brigade? Should it be a brigade anyway? You're formally in this before. Should it be a brigade?
I am saying if distribution balances, you can walk on foot without any.
Oh, I see. I get you now.
Major, please just elaborate to us how different the SFC can be from the mainstream UPDF.
And why is it a brigade?
Is it actually true that this particular army is different and specially treated from the rest of the colleagues in the UPDF?
First, the difference. The difference could be in the detailed training. They're trained mainly in VIP protection and also self-defense, because sometimes you may get hostile people, but also trained in kind of crowd control, because you are dealing with crowds all the time. The president is there. So the detail is in the training, and of course the discipline, how to handle civilians. They also train how to handle civilians. So that is a difference. About the privileges, not so much the privileges. They have salary, they have, they have a available kind of allowance like you could have even in UPDF. For example, if some soldiers are sent, say, especially staff officers. Staff officers here, I mean the soldiers who are in offices, as opposed to soldiers in a platoon, in a section, in a platoon, in a company. The staff officers, if you send, for example, staff officers from Buea today to go to Gulu to do something, they'll be getting allowance. Because they're going to Gulu, they're traveling, they'll sleep in hotels, they'll do that. They'll eat food. So it's the same thing there for staff officers on staff duties. They can get allowances. But basically about the soldiers, they're the same. There's no special preference. Only that because they protect the presidency and the family.
Is it the president's personal army?
It is not. It is a Uganda army. It is the army of the government of Uganda. Only that it's just like you can have a group of soldiers detailed for artillery, a group of soldiers detailed for marine. So this one, they are just detailed for protecting the president. And that is why it warrants their special training for the task at hand.
Did they need to be a brigade, as you were saying?
It depends. It can be a brigade or more, depending on the task. For example, you must appreciate, unlike the Congress former leader, is that President Museveni likes to be hands-on with the people in the villages. And I think he's the only president who basically knows all the villages in Uganda. I've been in a meeting with him, and you introduce yourself, I'm from Doholo. He can take you on. Which part of Doholo? That this and this place. And he can even give you examples. Do you know an old woman called so and so, or a muzee called so and so? When you branch the other road. And similar thing, whether you ask Kamuenge, whether you ask Kisoro, So meaning
That
that...
is, it's true. Even generally, most of the Bushmen, there is a way they have a map of this country in their mind.
So, but that also
very true.
shows that he moves
And he's been around
everywhere.
for 40 years.
So
he's
the
visited
movement, therefore, the nature of operation that it goes for mobilization, for talking to people, warrants a spread of SFC. You find others are actually based in Umbale, so that when it's there, they take care of the operation.
Can't we see what RSF is doing in Sudan today? Can't we see that happen in this country in the future?
RSF in the main Sudan.
Yes, the RSF, because RSF was a product
The specialist
of
forces.
Omar Bashir himself. And it was a special forces in the Sudanese army. Now, it's destabilizing that particular country.
No, I don't think RSF was a special force. Maybe I lose a bit of the literature, but RSF, what had happened with Sudan is that they had recruited a separate militia. Can you imagine this?
Exactly.
Yeah, which is...
This is not a militia. Let me tell you this, now I remember. The setting in Sudan was that the militia were not trained by the army, they were not controlled by the army, they didn't even have, here even our own militia like Amuka or Haro group, we deployed commanders, we deployed political commissars and intelligence, and they were subject to the military law, the court martial. In the case of Sudan, nothing. It was wild. Some of us knew it was soon to cause problem. They were just wild. And can you imagine they would even attack government army? Even long ago, I can't imagine the Haru group, which is trained by the army to be an auxiliary to the army, again attacking the army. The Sudan setting was different. They are not under command and control of the army. They are not. It's just a wilderness. And according to Bashir, he had thought he would use this wilderness to guard this interest. And it backfired. So it's a different setting.
Okay, give us your parting shot, sir.
My parting shot is, especially come back to the CDF, that when a ruling is made at the Supreme Court, we have a right to disagree and do a surgery. And I say that is why it is done in universities. It is studied. The case is studied, is criticized and what? As opposed to, what did you say, the principle of?
Yes.
Yes. As opposed to that principle where you don't discuss a matter in court. Sub judice. Therefore, the CDF is free to discuss it and to disagree with it.
Okay.
But right now, actually, government is implementing. And Mao, as Minister of Justice, said it. So, without what the CDF said, the government is respecting the ruling.
Thank you so much.
Now, what the CDF can do is, as an institution under the government or under the ministry, it can now go back. It is absolutely right to suggest a legislation to cure the mischief. What he was saying, lack of command and control, is absolutely right. It can go back around the table, suggest a new law to cure the mischief of command and control.
Okay, sir.
So it's absolutely right.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mathew, your parting shot, sir.
My parting thought, we are going to have a legal problem because the aggrieved is the one to deal with the withdrawn bill from Parliament. Because the Attorney General was aggrieved with the constitutional ruling, appealed to Supreme Court, lost from there on his own focus of what he wanted. Now is the one who is going to be handed over. He may not respect the ruling, and when brings it to Parliament, it will be thrown out. Okay. Then we remain staggering with the military having any role governing them and guiding them. Because here they say that when military high command sits to object and disobey constitutional ruling by court, it implies several serious concerns. I will not read them all. Constitutional crisis, threat to democracy, international implications, diplomatic fallout. And others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's wait to see that. I hope it does not happen. Sir, your parting shots.
I just hope that common sense prevails. Mr. Museveni and his son both lost an opportunity last week. They should have said that they did not agree with the ruling, but they would respect it. In his son's case, I did not expect him to comment at all. There was no need for him to make to express his opinion, even in that position, and considering the fact that they're trying to sanitize an event which was basically effectively an event of terror in Kabamba on February 6, 1981. But that said, I hope also that the young Mr. Museveni's son recognizes that the threat that he conveyed to Besigye and Kyagulanyi is also unacceptable, and that I hope that in view of that, knowing that Uganda is quite concerned, that this matter is expedited and Kizza Besigye is released, and that we make sure that nobody being held in military courts at the moment continue to be there unnecessarily, and that in future we find a settlement of some sort, that common sense prevails, and we make sure that civilians go back to civilian courts like it used to be under UPC administrations and previous administrations, and that we don't return to the rule of the jungle. These guys are applying what they used to do when they're in the bush.
Thank you so much. It is exactly 9 p.m. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And of course, thank you to our viewers for tuning in from the time we started up to now. This conversation will return again next Monday at exactly 7 p.m. You will be watching the Hotline Show. It happens every particular Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. But tomorrow, we have the Director of Public Information, or who you call the spokesperson of the Uganda People's Defense Forces, that is Acting Major General Felix Kuleije. You're going to be talking about what they think about the Supreme Court ruling. You already know the stand of the CDF, but the question is, isn't this really undermining the civilian authority? Isn't this something that is going to, bring about of controversy in the land today? So that and much more, please do tune in tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. We will be with the spokesperson of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. So tune in then. From the entire team, God bless you, good night, and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.